I've been contemplating if I should embrace the project that I'm most passionate about first,
Hmm.
or if I should do easier and less important projects a little bit like before, to get the miles in before I hit the one that I'm more passionate about, right? Like, so I don't, because I think my biggest problem before when tackling those big projects has always been that I put so much effort on it, and then as I'm putting effort, I'm also learning and testing the techniques.
Yeah.
And now that I know what I like. I know I tested everything with the main character, and now I no longer like the main character because I just did it. Like,
Hmm.
I know I can do a little bit better now that I went through the process. So I do it again, and then I do like three other characters, and now the like a character that's not very important for the story is looking better than the main character. So I do the main character again, and just by doing that, I think I already made the same character 5 times
Yeah, it's a vicious
complete.
cycle.
So and then I never finish the project, right? Now, if I test the pipeline, if I test my techniques with a project that I'm not as concerned about the success of the project, I'm just like, okay, I just need to, like, this is an exercise and like moving around.
Hmm.
Then I might work all the kinks with this other thing, and then I have a finished product there. And when I start the next one, I'm already miles ahead of where I would be, and I actually finished something as I'm training, kind of, right?
It's a good point.
So so that, like, it sounds the best approach to me, but I'm also like, am I wasting time working on something that I'm not that passionate about, and am I not going to be able to finish this one because I'm not that passionate about, because my mind is half on this other thing, right? Like, so
Well, often like comic book artists, and if you have the luxury, will start. They won't start on page one. They'll maybe start on like the 20th page of the script because they want the first few pages to be absolutely like spot on. Have the characters down. So they'll start later on, get used to the characters. And some, if you have a few like middle pages that are a little bit iffy, it doesn't matter so much. But the first couple of pages, people really want those to be good, so they'll do that and then come back to the start.
that's
So
actually, I
it's
like
not.
that. When it comes to making characters, that's also can be approach, right? Like, you can make an important character first,
Mhm.
and then like
Yeah.
some secondaries, and leave your main character for a little bit later. So I guess, yeah, just flexing, stretching that a little bit kind of works.
And I think if you want to do a test project, you should make it very digestible and quite small. Maybe like a little 5 seconds, or something that doesn't require too much like story. You're just testing like the technical artistic side,
Yeah,
so you can get it done fairly quickly and then move on. Because if you have like if your test project is a mammoth project that you look at it from the start and you're like, wow, this is going to take me so long, and like
yeah,
you almost like give up. We need those little small victories, right, that we can get quickly, like, and that
you are
goes
right.
from little daily
Yeah,
sketches to something that might take 2 weeks, which could be small in relation to 2 years. So
yeah. No, my test project would take me like 4 months.
yeah, so that's it, right? That's like a huge undertaking in itself. And do you need to
Yeah,
learn? Are you going to learn like how much more would you learn in 4 months than 4 days or 4 weeks, right? Like,
true. I think the learning aspect of it is um actually finishing something, going like
yeah,
going through the entire process. I think it's the most important part of this learning curve, I think.
for
uh,
sure.
so, but that being said, it's a vicious cycle again, because the the less time consuming a project is, the like I have a ton of uh, quick projects that I can tackle, but they don't involve storytelling.
Hmm.
Like, for me, I think for when it comes to storytelling, there is a minimum amount that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like, I know, like, you can do storytelling with a single image, but what I'm looking for, it's like, for me to test the entire format, I think I need multiple pages. I'm putting a stop on making it as an animation, because I know that's going to take too long. like going back to the question of what's the minimum viable product, and
Hmm.
actually like I think in this case a comic book it's the best illustration of it's the best way for me to put this in front of other people and tell a story without needing an entire team or an entire year without working. Like
Yeah, for sure. So maybe like a small like vertical slice, like what we do in the industry, like you do a small vertical slice, a test of the project
hmm
before you get going, and it's like I say, it's your characters, your environments, like how are you going to kind of render and color this, what the speech bubbles are going to be like, this you could do like a small few panels, and really test it out, push it,
yeah,
and then come back to it like this your test, and you might even put those pages in somewhere, you might be like, actually this is all right, but don't start at the beginning,
yeah.
start further on in the story. And then
And that, I think that's good advice. That's other thing. It's actually another thing I want to test. Speech bubbles.
hmm
Um, that's something that always kind of bothered me on comic books. Um, and I see like now my son is 5, and I see him having a little bit of problem, especially when once the thing is text heavy, and it's like we're like which one is next, right? Like sometimes it gets a little like there's a dialogue and there's like okay you start it's like left to right and top to bottom, but this character is on the left but the goes to the right because it gets confusing sometimes, and when it's not properly done of course. But um and the other so that's problem number one I have with the speech bubbles, and problem number two is the uh it covers half of the illustration sometimes, it's like there's some awesome art that could be behind and like occupying that space. I think it kind of because I'm coming for animation, and I want to see like widescreen, even knowing like I know it's another media, but that's
hmm
what I'm used to, right? Like my all my compositions has been uh, every single composition I ever made, it's focused on this aspect ratio, right? So what I'm thinking is doing a little bit of the old Nintendo days. Just think back of like the original Zelda
hmm
games, or Pokemon or whatever, where there is a scene when the character is gonna speak, his face appears and the text in front underneath, so it's not blocking the screen, kind
okay.
of. So I'm thinking of testing that for. So it's a mix of illustrated book with a comic book, so it's not following. Um, like I'm gonna have multiple panels depending on like for fast-paced scenes, like
hmm
having, but most of it I want to have like a single panel with the dialogues in this format of the little heads with the. So I don't know. I
Yeah, I mean that's
it
cool. Lots of role playing games, especially Japanese ones, do that now. Still, I feel, have
yeah.
like a small talking head. I
hmm
think you test it out and see how long your dialogue. It could get busy, if it's a heavy dialogue. Um,
Yeah.
and I agree. Sometimes it like lettering can look bad, can like look out of place. It's up to the artist, like initially, because I know this from drawing comics, to compose the panel in the right
Yeah.
way, like right to make room for those. So
hmm
it's I think it's worth trying out, and
Yeah.
because
I'm excited about that idea because I think it's like another thing like every single media that I worked on before has audio, so you don't have to worry about that.
Mhm.
So I'm not trained on making a properly placed speech bubble. Like I don't know where. I don't know if I'm. I don't know. I just anytime I
Yeah,
tried, I'm not very happy with the results. So
you probably shouldn't notice like good speech bubbles, like good lettering,
yeah,
because it's just you like it never gets in the way. It's flowing. It could even lead the eye across the page, and the good ones do.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, that'd be interesting to try out. I think that's definitely something worth testing.
yeah. So I would definitely test that, and I think that like that Muse project that I always talk about is kind of
Yeah.
a good one for that. Um, do you wanna show me what you've been working on? Like, do you wanna do like so? How do you wanna start? Do you wanna talk about current projects first, or do like
I can do either. It's funny actually. I brought up some work to show, and this isn't even all the work to show how just what we spoke about there, how little work I'm finishing, how much work I'm starting, and like how much I get to a certain point, and then I'm like, okay, something else. And that's again we spoke about this last week. Something I want this podcast to help me with is to keep me honest, keep me finishing projects. Speak about them every week to you, and
Mhm.
see some progression. That's the ultimate goal, really. It's I've got a lot of sketches, a lot of ideas, and like a lot of artists out there, just never quite take them over the finish line. But hey, let's look at some. I know we spoke about. So we spoke about this last week. This was 2015, so 9 years ago now, and these were some of my first 3 pages for Kung Fu Panda. Sans speech bubbles, as you can see. I didn't often. I did the lettering for my work in smaller publications, but for this one, we had a letterer who did the job itself. But yeah, this was, like I said, the job worked on that I felt like, oh yeah, maybe I can do this. And man, I put so much effort into these pages. You'll notice like I actually like colored all the line work, which was an extra, couple of hours on each page because I wanted to push the animated feel a little bit. Which looking back now, maybe I should just embrace like the comic, like the script, like the spot blacks and the line work. But at the time, I was really I was really into coloring line work.
Well,
Um,
it looks awesome.
yeah, it came out all right. It was and like I said, for the first 3 pages, it was I think I got Poe pretty well for the most part. I got some nice shapes, and obviously you have a lot of reference from the movies. So yeah, these were my the first 3 pages I did for Kung Fu Panda. Moving on, you might recognize this show.
Oh yeah.
So this is a show that Celso and I worked on together. Uh, Builder Brothers Dream Factory, which is out now. And these were some ideas that now that the show is out, I can go through, and ideas that we never really fleshed out. Actually, it went in a bit of a different direction. Um, but I don't know if you remember, at one point we were really trying to make it all cluttered and handmade and like give a feel that it was a real kids workshop.
I think it's a perfect example of why we need personal projects because
Yeah.
it's even like you're given an opportunity to do something that's cool,
Hmm.
and you have ideas that all the creative people involved loved,
Yeah.
but then it goes through a pipeline of studio heads and clients and
Yeah.
things, and just it keeps coming back to the common place, right?
100%.
And you can, like, even knowing, like, uh I know you didn't have the art director title on this show, but you were pretty much art directing.
Hmm.
And even though you are the person in charge of the art department, it's not up to you to make the final decision. So it's kind of it defeats the purpose of the title to begin with.
Yeah, for sure.
you know
For sure. Yeah, that was a strange project where I felt uh, a little bit undermined in some ways. And I think looking back now, I probably didn't stand up for myself enough, which was a good lesson to learn, right? I think because I didn't have the title, I maybe didn't believe it. But looking back now with experience, I'm like, yeah, I should have maybe put my foot down a little bit more. Um, but money and bills and life as well. I think it was just in a place where I just had to do it. But I mean,
yeah,
even
and this.
even these ideas, you remember what it came out like. It was a lot different from this, right? A lot more safe,
Mhm,
I feel. And safe was the word. We were getting kind of changes, like notes to change things because they were unsafe, which is
mhm.
crazy for a kids cartoon. Like there's
Yeah,
nothing.
the irony is kind of funny too, right? Like, where,
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
when the script demands, like, kids are almost like in a junkyard, making, like, their own studio out of containers, and making robots out of garbage,
Hmm.
using power tools and everything. And so the script, to begin with, the idea is unsafe and cool, and the
Yeah.
kids like the edge, like the little bit of fear and everything, right? Like,
Hmm.
and then, but then the uh like the toy companies like want to play
Yeah,
safe, and everybody
that
wants to
was
play
it. We
safe.
brought in like a toy consultant who was trying to like kind of bring it in his mind up to date. He's like, oh, 5 minutes in the future is what's going to sell now, and the whole premise of the show and the spirit of the show kind of changed actually. Like literally 2 months after I was brought on, I felt it was
Hmm.
pulled away. But I'm still, I still like the direction we were taking it before it changed, which is why some of this
Yeah.
work. I mean, not so much down here, but this is kind of
Hmm.
where it went.
Well, but also like the funniest thing is I brought this as an example because I worked on a similar show with a similar premise that turned out the same way before.
Yeah.
Rusty Rivets.
Hmm.
It's the
Yeah,
same
that's right.
thing. It's kids making things out of things that they find, and all the original designs were like recognizable parts of things. Like the dog had like an excavator mouth, and everything was like very recognizable.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they put this together using those things, and then they the toy consultant came in, and they started like, okay, we need like their home base where like it's gonna be a toy itself, so we need this to
Hmm.
be and it went from a junkyard kid on the junkyard show to a Iron Man Junior kind of
Yeah.
technology. you know
And I understand the show needs to sell, needs to make money, but there should be somewhere in the middle a compromise, right? Like we had to get rid of everything off the ground here. Like there was nothing for these kids to make anything with, and I feel like somewhere we could have met somewhere in the middle, but in the end it didn't quite work out. But enough about that show. Here's a one you might recognize as well, something that didn't take off, didn't work, but I don't know if you remember me working on these, but I think this was a really fun project that could have really cool idea, about little little toys helping a kid cook in the kitchen. And I think again, everyone in creative like loved this idea, and in my mind, I was like, I've cracked the code. This show is going to take off, and I still believe it could have actually. Um, and I think like personally as well, it was also a step up. It was the first time I was really kind of using Blender to the best effect that I could use it. Also a nice mix and match of like the paint, of the 2D effects. I would have loved to have taken this project further. But yeah, like I say, I kind of couldn't quite get past the management. But I still think this was a really cool idea.
I love it. Yeah, yeah, especially with like with the like seeing you creating this from the basic um not pitch package, what's called like the
Yeah, like not like the what is it? like the
like
brief, like
yeah, the brief, with the basic brief you got and the examples that we're giving, and you came up with this with like I like the like on the first shot there, you put things on the eye level of the toys, and
yeah,
it's yeah, so it's the like I don't know, like it has a little bit of the Honey I Shrunk the Kids vibe, where
for
you're
sure.
seeing
Yeah,
things, yeah, like
yeah, and everyone
from
loves
Honey.
that. Everyone loves that miniature stuff, and yeah, and
Mhm.
honestly, in my mind, I can almost like I can hear this show. I can hear the effects. I can hear the little like the music, like 2D effects. Like it's got a lot of heart. But the good thing about this project is it didn't work out. Like I said, it didn't go forward. But I ended up using it in my portfolio, which landed me like a client, like one of my dream clients, essentially. Like they saw this work and hired me from that basis. So even though it didn't work out at the time, it's worked out since then, which is pretty cool. So, and all right, and some work now that's completely different. My my real passion, or one of my real passions, is life drawing. I try to go a couple of times a week, and luckily in Montreal, there's tons of life drawing here. You can go every night if you wanted to. I love kind of getting messy with charcoal. Um, I last year and this year I took a course with Steve Houston, who I think maybe one episode I should kind of delve into that and how it kind of really affected my art. because it was probably the most progressive year I've ever had in my life, learning on Steve. So yeah, I try to go to life drawing every, at least twice a week. And for me, we know working in the industry, it can be a little bit constraining and draining sometimes, like changes, kind of, management, all the kind of politics. You go to life drawing and you sit there for a few hours and it's literally your time. You'll make mistakes, you'll do good drawings, bad drawings, but they're all practice, and it's all, just, this is an energy there that I struggle to find anywhere else. Even though I love painting digitally, I love working on my computer, there's an energy in drawing from life that I don't think you can replicate anywhere else, for me personally. So yeah, life drawing is now like it's like eating, it's like going to the gym. It's just like I make sure I go because it's training as well, like it puts you in good stead for work. And
And
then sorry, go ahead.
sorry, not to interrupt, but just I think you were going to life drawing like pretty much every other day, because we were talking a lot during that
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And yeah, every other day it was like, oh, what did you do yesterday? I was like, oh, I went to life drawing.
It's true. I mean, I was going a lot. Like before I started the course with Steve, I was going to life drawing a lot, but I wasn't progressing. I was on a plateau, and I was like, oh man, why am I not getting any better? Um, and after like a while, I was like, okay, I need to try and figure this out. So, and I think it was essentially that, my knowledge, I'd hit like a ceiling with my knowledge, and I couldn't go beyond that. No matter how well I could draw, like my knowledge of anatomy, my knowledge of, just composition, perspective, whatever, it couldn't go past that. So I needed to kind of like, okay, calm down a little bit, work on like, getting my knowledge up, and then my skill set could follow, and I could start like, drawing more, um, you know, well, not realistic figures, but more confident drawings, So that's what Steve did to me. He pushed my knowledge like from like down here, like up there. And then I can slowly now start, working towards like being, I don't know, like, Steve is a world-class artist. And for me, he opened up my eyes to how we can become a world-class artist. It's not like I think anyone can achieve it. Honestly, I really do. But you need to put the work in, and you need to know the right things. And I think Steve opened, that for me. So I'm hoping like in 20 years time, I don't think we'll ever consider ourselves world class, but I would like to think that I can, look back at my work and look at my work and be like, okay, yeah, I'm finally getting good, So, cause that's what it is, it's like, it humbles you so much, life drawing. Like you think you're one drawing, you think you're like a literal like god, and the next drawing, you're like, I can't even hold a
Man,
pencil.
it's the eternal, how do you say it? Like I think it's there's a cycle of an artist's struggle
Mm-hmm.
where um, you go like I go through that every single thing that I make, and I think I'm growing callous to it. Like I recognize now, so I'm more comfortable in that. Where like the first, like I have an idea
Mm-hmm.
and I sit down to do it, and I see in my mind the potential, and I'm super excited. It's like this is going to be the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
And then like 20 minutes later, I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, why am I doing this? Like, I could
Yeah.
be outside doing whatever. Like this, yeah, it's pointless. It's not going anywhere. And then if you keep pushing, you end up on a like, okay, it's not the best thing I've ever done, but it's better than I thought was going to turn out.
For sure.
And then the final stage is like 2 years later, you look at it again, and it's like, this is actually pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
why
It's
was
so
the thing
true.
I didn't like at the time? Like, it's actually great, you know?
Yeah. You know what else is interesting about life drawing? It is almost like we said earlier about having those little victories, those bite-sized wins. You go for like 3 hours and you're done, and you feel like accomplished. Like you get those like that dopamine hit because you've actually finished a little project. That was something you needed to do today, and it's an art project, and you get it done, right? And um, Actually, I was just looking at this, laughing at this one. This is what I went to life drawing and I finished a painting early. This is like in a painting class. I didn't have another canvas, so I just flipped over this canvas and just kind of painted this guy's portrait really quick. And it had this like really rough texture on the back of the canvas because it's not primed, so it was like really hard to paint on it. But actually quite liked the way the kind of texture came out.
Man, to be honest, like I would hang that thing, because it's like
I know, but
just
it's hard because it's on the wrong side. Maybe I could take the canvas off and kind of staple it.
no. I think this is part of what I like, seeing the frame like that. I think
Yeah, it's got
you
like a
can
shadow
just
frame.
you can just put a screw from the other side, just like destroy the canvas a little bit where you don't see there.
Yeah,
Like,
it's true actually. Yeah. So, and these are some drawings that I did recently, and I'm like, when you look through like old files and you're like, oh man, these are pretty good. I should have finished these. And again, it's on my to finish list, But I was like, I was like, these drawings are pretty cool. And I just wanted
they
to
are.
bring them up to like, remind myself to to get shit done. And then I think we're almost done here. Just some digital painting studies. I love kind of finding old photographs. We've got loads of kind of like photography books, that I feel I prefer that to finding reference online. To be honest, there's something a little bit there's a bit of ambiguity to the photo sometimes, especially from the 80s or the 90s, where there's a little bit of grain. You can't see every like little bit of detail, and so you're making the decisions, when you're painting, rather than having this perfect high res reference. Yeah, I think you're almost like inviting, the viewer and yourself to be like a participant, like while you paint, rather than just like, okay, there's a little bit of a wrinkle there, there's a slight change in values here. I think finding a reference sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes that isn't clear is more interesting and fun than just the perfect, the perfect photo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen Will Terrell on YouTube before?
Oh yeah.
Like the marker guy.
Yeah.
One thing that he does is like when he does his people sketches, he does the on a very light pencil where the people are, right? Like on the subway or whatever he is.
Yeah.
And then he does his marker work where he's actually flushes it out
Yeah.
at home later.
For sure.
So it's kind of like it might not look like the person anymore because he's actually finishing without the reference there,
Yeah.
but it's looking
that.
like how he feels about the person more,
Yeah, he
right?
captured like his essence and that's actually I've been doing that too. Actually, I didn't know he did that, but I know he does a lot of people sketching and they're really cool. But yeah, so I'll as I said last week, I'll sit outside, I'll sit and look out the window, I'll go to the park and I'll sketch and I'll come back and I'll like, okay, let's go over some ink in this. And it's good that you say that Will Terrell does it, because yeah, I feel like it's a great little exercise, kind of keeps you, you sharp, a little bit sharper as well. You're like, oh, that person was wearing this, they walk like that. Yeah, so that's kind of some of my work, not the work I wanted to show that's in work in progress, but yeah, just to give an idea of the kind of things that excite me. And yeah.
And what's the project that you're like trying to take off now, like the one that like if you let's say if you get if your studio bankrupts tomorrow, what's the project that you're going to be working on? Like day in, day out.
Yeah, for sure. I've got a couple, which one, I'm a very big fan, maybe a fanatic of Vincent Van Gogh.
Yeah.
I've read all of his books. The books written about him, his letters, like watch documentaries nonstop. I've got like a whole YouTube subsection to Vincent videos.
I didn't know that part.
yeah. It's I just go in and kind of watch him, and for me, he is romanticized a little bit, and it's so is that his kind of like his illness, his mental illness, but like looking back at him now, I feel like his story is kind of the fact that he had like all these odds stacked against him and he still created. He only sold one painting in his whole life, and it was for pittance, and but he kept on painting regardless, right? Yeah, I know he had money from his brother Theo, so he was kind of like helped, but he felt like enormous guilt about that. And so anyway, so I've got these kind of couple of ideas about Vincent. I speak like we're friends. I one first name basis, but
Little Vince.
yeah, a couple of ideas. One is it's like a what if Vincent's life went right. What if when he went down to Arles and in the Yellow House when he lived with Gauguin, what if things were right, and what if he was the confident artist and Gauguin was the one who was almost like in awe of him, and I think he was in some ways. So I've got this idea that it's I'll show some. First of all, I'm just gonna share while I talk about it. It's more interesting that way. So I went and took. I love Vincent so much. I even dressed up as him. And these were some.
Oh, sorry, I gotta add to the stage. Okay. Oh, nice.
So these were some kind of really rough ideas that I was thinking about for just quick gestures to try and see, because in my mind I like this idea, but I'm still not sure how I want it to kind of look. But I don't think that's my problem right now. I think I'd solve that as I went through. Mm-hmm. But I did want to kind of almost like I do like working from from some reference, just to get those quick kind of gestures down. So I wanted to kind of try and get into the mind of Vincent a little bit, his depression, his excitement. So these are some early drawings. I feel like this is kind of looking pretty cool. I don't know where it's really going, but
this is my favorite out of those.
Which is the one I didn't use reference for. So that's mine too. But there's something melancholy about it. Like he looks sad and tired, and which might play against my story. But there's definitely something in this drawing that I feel is pretty cool. Especially look at this one. So these are some quick kind of sketches that again I've left unfinished, and some thumbnails as well of this kind of idea where I'm just trying to get this down, and it's in this story Vincent's life is going really well, but in reality there was only him and Gauguin who lived in Arles in the Yellow House, but in this version all of Vincent's friends are there. So if you know Vincent's story, you might be like, oh, they weren't actually there, so you might clock on really quickly, but if you don't, then you might think, oh yeah, actually maybe Charles Dickens and Zola were actually visiting Vincent in south of France, so
or you might not even know who they are,
or that, and that's a good point. So these are some ideas that I had written down, and again, this is from watching YouTube videos. I'm always writing ideas down. Like Ella Hendricks, she's a conservative for, I think, for the Vincent van Gogh Museum, and sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I should email, and see if she's got any interest. So yeah, but like you said, but this is an example for me of an exciting story. I have another one which is about Vincent was also like a priest before he was an artist. He was really religious, and he went to a place called the Borinage, and worked with these miners and went down these mines, and he was like a
oof.
Yeah, so and it was a really
sorry, no, when you said miners, I thought of the underage ones, not the ones that dig holes.
No, but there was lots of young kids and stuff down the mines and died really early. So it's a pretty it's a crazy part of his life that I feel not many people would know or do know either, which is also interesting. It's a story before he decided to become an artist. He got to the end of that and he was like, I'm going to be an artist. And so I think, would that be a cool story to tell? At least for me, it interests me, which is maybe, all it needs to do, right? It's if I do it, then
definitely
I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah.
Wow, this has become a Vincent van Gogh podcast.
I don't care, man. It's why you're it's the importance of working on something that you're passionate about, right? Like,
Yeah,
so
for sure, for sure. So
you have way more than what I thought you would have. Because, like, I remember the pictures you took. I didn't see the sketches
yeah,
beside the pictures,
hmm
and you got the entire board there. Like, I know it's just
yeah, it's
thumbnails, but it's like, yeah, you're moving.
for sure.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
it's moving. It's slow. Talking about it now is exciting, but I need to make sure that that once that excitement wins, I can sort of keep moving forward with it. And I also the idea here would probably be to create an animatic. I've been very into storyboarding recently, as you know, and I think an animatic would be like a nice level to take it. Like I'd love to do animation, but that would be a good practice for me. It would be a story that I wanted to tell. So it'd be serving a lot of it would be serving like purpose, here and here.
Hmm.
Professionally, I think it could propel me, and personally, I think it'd be really good to get this story out, of my head, because I am a bit, I'm definitely not an academic, and this is dealing with a real life person. So I think there's a bit of trepidation on my end. Thinking, oh man, people are going to judge me. Are they going to be like, that's not what happened? Even though I feel I know a fair amount about him. Dealing with a real person, like in history, is a little bit precarious sometimes. I feel so. That's another
Even if,
thing. Which,
even if the story is about yourself, other people that took place on those stories might see things different
mm-hmm.
and might disagree with the way you tell. Like, Baby Reindeer, for example, like the guy is telling his own story. He's not trying to portray him on a positive way, because,
Yeah,
like, if anything, it's revealing how much of a creep he is too, right? Like, how very, like, and so I don't. It's not trying to attract positive attention to him in any way. I think it's a very legitimate. I think that it happened the way he feels how it happened,
yeah, for sure.
and other people who came out as the characters on the story disagree, right? So,
Yeah,
uh, and the story is about himself. Now imagine if he was a historical figure that none of us know
mm-hmm.
personally, but we all have feelings about how things happen. So,
It's true. Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, I think I should just plow through with this idea. I think it's the shortest idea that I have for Vincent. So maybe like a minute and a half, and it's doable. It's digestible, and I think it'd be fun to design these characters. And so, but having said that, things like this keep on getting him. I get these ideas, and I won't go through this right now. But this is another storyboard I have planned out. The car, which is an idea. I'm also like, oh, that's a great idea, and I've got all these projects starting, which I start and they rattle around in my head and I love them. And then I'll start something else. And, I think I sent you this earlier today. This is something else where I was like, oh, maybe I'll try and color some over some old sketches. And I
and you
think
got
we're
the
good.
pilots too, and
Yeah, exactly. And I think,
yeah,
so it's these kind of,
and the London Fisherman too, like
yeah,
the
yeah.
there is,
So it's and in my mind, I'm like, is there something in my subconscious that is creating more work to put off? It's like I'm almost like scared of the work that I need to do, that I should be doing. So I create all these kind of false starts, everywhere else to kind of distract me from what could go wrong if I start my actual project. I think
well,
it's deeper than just being diverse, or like trying to show some diversity, or being a bit scattergun. I think it's probably like I'm scared of what might go wrong or the problems that face, which is ridiculous because that's what art is, right? It's like so.
so I don't think you're scared. Like, we tend to, I think people say that quite a lot, right? Like, are you scared of your project and all that? Um, I think you're just interested in a lot of different things,
Mm,
and there is a way. If you think about it, the car scene that you said you're not gonna get into it. If you think about it, what's interesting you most about that story? So sometimes you can, maybe you're able to just put that on the back burner uh, and try to use the energy of what's exciting about that story on one that you actually like planning on finishing sooner, right?
yeah.
So if it is like the action scene, right? Like if you're thinking of like foreshadowing something,
Hmm.
like if that's what's uh, the trigger that's capturing your attention,
Yeah.
then you might be able to reframe the excitement and the idea in a way that works for the story. Similar to so I have this space pirate story, right? I told you about, and I I was reading a lot about of Stoic philosophy, and I got like I was about to pull the brakes on working on that story so I could do something about Stoic philosophy because it's all I was reading about, similar to the
Hmm.
Van Gogh for you, right? Like
Hmm.
it's like I read multiple books about, I was watching multiple videos about a day, and just like really getting in. For me, it was like, oh, this is the way of living that I didn't know I was trying to have, right?
Hmm.
and and then I was like, okay, if I do there's a few ways to approach that. If I For me to do some narrative with this, either is historical, I'm talking about the real people that came up with those philosophies, or it's fiction and I'm applying this in another context, or it's like not art related at all, and it's just me talking about how I feel about it.
Hmm.
So I all those things were in my mind, and then just by having that on the back of my mind for some time, I started incorporating the lectures that I was learning from Stoic philosophy to my actual story in a way that makes sense. So I kind of it became the moral backbone of the story that I was writing, even
Yeah.
knowing the story originally wasn't about that, and it's still not about that. It's not going to be mentioned on that, but
Hmm.
the life lessons that the Stoic philosophers learned, I'm kind of trying to reframe that on the story, and the examples of that happened to like in my real life, I'm also like kind of trying to incorporate. So uh, it's like using the energy that was driving me uh, to move from the project to another project, kind of trying to reframe that to bring me back to the thing that I want to work on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's true.
yeah,
I mean, we're lucky enough. We're so lucky that we get to sit and I actually had a call with there was a young artist who reached out to me on LinkedIn like a little while ago and wanted to just talk about kind of the industry and um really nice. Like she was from Iran and kind of like she lived in England and I said to her like we're so lucky that we're kind of like be like have this ability to create and use our kind of like use art as like a vehicle to kind of like express our like our interests or feelings. And so in terms of your project, like I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome that you can you know essentially give your ideas life, and through a different like a medium that isn't, I'm not saying it is preachy, but it's kind of like it's through your filter. This is like everything. This is all
yeah.
you're learning, put through Celso's filter, like and put out into the world. That's pretty amazing.
There is
That's what
good
art is.
ways to be preachy about something, right? Like if you, I think the bad way is for you to stop everything and give a lesson in the media. Like
Hmm.
you kind of it's not part of the story. It's just something that you really want to talk about, and you kind of like put a break on the story to talk about that, and then you come back. I think that's the wrong way of doing.
Hmm.
And I think the good way of doing is actually making a story that the the preaching part is actually what's driving the narrative, and the moral is not something that I'm trying to make the lesson is not something that I'm trying to teach the spectator. The lesson is something that the character is learning on the story, and that's going to
Yeah,
benefit him in the story.
true.
So I think that's the I don't know. It's what I'm telling myself because that's the way I'm trying to do it.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
it's true, and I guess I don't know about you, but sometimes that kind of story, like I don't feel like a writer, at all. So that kind of scares me a little bit for like long form. I'm like, God, how do I keep something going for that long? Like that's why I think lots of my ideas are short, kind of short bursts of story of energy. Like these all these ideas I have are fairly, except that one or you know could be finished in a couple of minutes watching, obviously.
yeah.
Because I don't feel like I have the confidence to tell a long form story. But maybe I've just never tried. Maybe I've never put myself in that position to feel uncomfortable, you know?
Yeah, and maybe you just need to, like, my plan for now was like, when I was trying to focus on short films, was to finish my short film that I never finished. That's like about 5 minutes, and make the Muse one about 15 minutes, and from that moving to like another story that, I can't quite remember. Oh yeah, there was a yeah, another story that was like about 30 minutes long, and
Yeah.
then from there go to the episodic stuff that the with my space pirates, and after that was like my, like a script that I wrote. um God damn it, I'm getting old, man. Like, has been over 10 years now that I first worked on that thing, and I never finished for a feature film. So it would be like, a natural progression, escalating in difficulty. And
Yeah.
it's funny because a quick side. So I had this story. I was trying to make it. I actually quit a job for working on that. I worked on it for 6 months, and I got 10 pages done in 6 months. uh, so I saw the bills piling up, and I was like, yeah, that's not gonna work. Like, because the script was for 120 pages, and I had 10 done in 6 months. I'm like, I'm never gonna finish this thing. So I just like put that aside, and I went to get a job again, and I kind of kept working on the side and revisiting, and and something hit me where I was like, oh, I need, I know what I need. I need to uh, change from a big project that's overwhelming to something quicker and like interesting, but not so deep that I'm not
Mhm.
trying to preach anything, and it's something quick. And then I came up with this space part story as a quick side project that now it's all I think about.
Yeah. So how long do you think that would, or how many pages would this be?
So this one, like, I was thinking of animated series before, right?
Oh
So
yeah, that's
it,
right. Yeah.
it would be 9 24 minutes episodes. So
9 24 minutes.
yeah,
That's a
and I
lot.
know
Space
24 is an
Force.
odd number, but well, it's even, but it's like not a, uh, but it's just like a precise. But there is some mad logic behind, like, it's well, one of my two of my favorite, like, looking at things that I enjoy watching. I think two, maybe, yeah, two of my favorite animes ever. It's both by the same studio, Samurai Champloo
Hmm.
and Cowboy Bebop. They they have this format that's like, it's a short series. I think it's over 20 episodes, but they have some fillers, right? Like, they both have a little bit of um, a few episodes that wouldn't affect the overall arc of the story if they were not there.
Hmm.
Um, so I was like, okay, this, yeah, and they are between 24 and 28 minutes per episode, and I really like the feeling, the pacing and everything. So I thought that, like, sticking to the form factory of um, would benefit me, and
Hmm.
so yeah, but it's pretty much 9 episodes. And the reason for nine, like, I think those two actually, they have like 3 or 4 episodes that are a little bit not very relevant for the overall story. But
Of
when you
course,
got
it's
to,
there's always a few of those in anime, I feel.
yeah, but with those short series is not too many.
True.
uh, but then you get like the Marvel Netflix shows, uh, where they, I think they were about, I can't remember how many episodes there were, but when they first came out, and like, I'm not, um, I actually really enjoyed the first season of, like, Daredevil when it came out,
Hmm.
and those things, but it always felt like was a little too long for the season. There was a few, and I think it's like around 12 or 13 episodes, and I was
Hmm.
like, man, if this was like 8 or 9, I think it would be like a more streamlined narrative.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, my thing. So base, um, the length of the episode was based on something that I like, and the amount of episodes was based on something that I disliked. Like just
Yeah,
trying not to replicate what I didn't like. Um,
that's interesting. They should take some. For some reason, British TV is always much shorter in terms of episodes per series than North American TV.
um, one of so there is this TV show. It's pretty old. Uh, there is two of them by the same people. One is My Name Is Earl. Have you
Yeah, I
seen
know
that
that.
one?
Yeah, I remember it.
And the other one is Raising Hope.
Yeah,
So
I've heard of that. I haven't seen it.
yeah, they and I think they're both really preachy. They are. It's almost like a lesson of the day, but in a good way because it's what the characters learned. But it's
Yeah,
very obvious what the message is, so that's what
yeah.
makes it. Some people think it's very preachy, but I
Another
don't know.
show like that is Malcolm in the Middle. I don't know if you remember.
I heard about Malcolm in the Middle quite a lot,
Oh, it's so
but
good.
I never gave it a shot.
It's so funny. Like I
Yeah,
remember I watched it recently with my nephew. Well, like a year and a half ago, my nephew and like we were in stitches. It was probably a little bit old for him, but it's really stood the test of time pretty well. And Bryan Cranston as well is
yeah.
yeah
Breaking Bad.
yeah it's on Disney Plus.
Okay, I'm trying to. So I broke all my links today for because my hard drive was full. I moved everything to the other hard drive, and now I opened the file that I prepared last week, and I have to relink everything because
So
so
you got nothing to show.
I'm getting there. I'm just relinking the files right now because I open here. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna show this, and it's like all red on my screen. Uh,
Damn.
and so yeah,
Hey.
this starting from the last scene that I kind of almost finished. Yeah, I know
I
it's
love
short.
this
It's
guy.
because I'm yeah. So this is the robot I made for my short film that I never finished. I filmed this thing in October last year, and I got so close to finishing, and but then like I got laid off from my job with
Hmm.
most of the people in the industry now, and I thought I actually got excited because I'm like I'm gonna use this time to finish the projects that I wanted until the industry bounces back, and I start like showing a little bit of what I'm working on to other people and actually talking about the things that I'm passionate about. Got people interested in hiring me for their passion projects or for their like
Yeah.
studio projects. So I've been busier now than I was when I had a full time job. Yeah, this
Oh,
was
that's
like
so
one a quick.
cool.
Let me play this. Yeah, what the heck? Okay, let me just play it. Yeah, just a little shots that I render out. Uh,
That's so cool. I
yeah,
remember seeing that robot, and it probably wasn't the first thing I'd seen you do for personal work, but I think because there was so much love and energy put into it, it was because I'd seen a lot of your professional work, obviously, but seeing that, I was like, "Fuck, this looks so cool!" Like, yeah, it really like took my breath away seeing this.
yeah, and thanks, man. But yeah, this story. So the the way this project came about was more a result of the resources available than because I really like problem solving and actually like making things work with what you have,
Hmm.
and that's one thing that I never did anything live action before, um, like personally. So this was like a great challenge where I met this guy at work, Jeff, and we start talking about ideas for making short films. He usually makes horror films, and I wrote down three ideas using resources that I thought we could find, and I showed him the three ideas, and he was more excited about this one, so I kept
Hmm.
developing this one a little bit. We wrote a very stupid script, and is like zero ambition on being deep at all. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's a delivery robot that shows up to deliver pizza to somebody at the capoeira gym, and he sees a class and he starts like he wants to learn, and he ends up fighting the master at the end. So it's
So
like,
fun.
yeah, it's not it's just for fun, just to make it. And I was like so excited about it, but every single step has a bump, like
Mm-hmm.
a stop sign, because we we're doing motion capture for it, right? And then the original way we were doing motion capture, um, that we were super excited about, the day before shooting, like the week before shooting, we went there to test it. And when we went to upload the media so we could actually see the results of the test. They were like, oh, we can no longer give you, because they were going to let us use for free. And they were like, oh, we're working on our cell phone app, we cannot onboard anybody right now, so you're not going to be able to use it. And that was devastating, right? Like, oh, we rented cameras, we did all this
Mm-hmm.
thing, and the it's not going to work anymore. And then we filmed anyways. We're like, okay, when the tool is actually, because it was on beta, that tool.
Yeah.
So when it's up, like, let's use it anyways. When it becomes available, then we see if it works. And sure enough, we filmed despite they saying we were not going to be able. And then they email us again saying like, actually, here's the tool, like you can use it now. And we're like, oh, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
And then we upload everything, and it doesn't work. And I don't know why I did wrong. And they couldn't afford to give us support because they were working on this phone app thing,
Yeah.
and it didn't work. So I kind of didn't touch the movie. Like I started working on the edits, but I wasn't working on the actual animation and everything for a long time because of it. And then the another tool came out, and I actually uh, I was like, okay, I have to rig this so I can use with this tool. Was also in beta test, but was open beta,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and I could use for free. And I was like super excited, and I started rigging the character because my friend was gonna rig for me, but he was too busy with freelance to finish the rig. So, and he also uses Maya, and my project is in Blender. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna rig it myself. So I learned rigging, and I start rigging this guy. And the day I finish the rig, they release the tool, and it's no longer free because it's not in beta anymore. And then I'm like, God damn it! So I I was like, okay, I finished the thing. I paid $100 to use it for a month. I mocap the whole thing, and then I had to pay for another month because it was a couple shots that was lingering.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think the second month I paid the cheaper version of the membership because I just needed a couple things.
Yeah.
And so $130 later, I got all the mocap done, and I'm like, okay, I can actually get started. And sure enough, like the always a bump, right? Like the way that mocap works, there's no ground, so was very floaty. So I had to fix everything, and then I find out about Cascadeur, this new animation tool that actually allows me to fix that fairly easy. But every single of those bumps gives me like a month of not working on my project because I'm trying to figure out how to solve it.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and now my current bump in the road is just that one, I got super busy with work, and two, I got just um, the only thing left for me to do is mocap the human behind the mocap, like just roto. I mean, yeah, roto out the like paint
Mm-hmm.
him out of the scenes where because a little bit shows here, a little bit shows there, and that's pretty much it. And but I have my entire film is in a single timeline, and it's very hardware intensive doing that. So it just like freezes up every time.
Yeah.
So I know the solution, but it's gonna be time consuming. I just need to uh, break my timeline in different files and do like each scene as an individual piece, and like for deleting the character, and
Mm-hmm.
then I just transfer the media and finish up. And I could do that in a few weeks if I wasn't if it it's not the type of work that I'm excited to come back at midnight and do it. So it's grind work. It's something that I
For
don't like
sure.
doing. But for me to actually, so I'm like counting the days until my current contract ends, so I can spend like 2 weeks just doing only that, so I can finish this thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Just get there. Yeah,
yeah.
it is tough. That I mean, God, you describing all that makes what I'm doing seem so simple. You know, like I think I actively try to avoid, you know, technical problems. You know, which is maybe why I don't delve too far into like, you know, into 3D and this. But I think I totally take my hat off to you. Like you are such a resourceful, knowledgeable artist. It's fucking amazing.
But sometimes works against me because it's like so many levels that needs to be to go through, right? Like
Yeah.
if I didn't have as much knowledge about so many different things, I could have a simpler project that doesn't need those
Mm.
things, right? But trying to flex all the muscles, right? Like and
Yeah, for sure.
um, yeah, let me just so yeah, well, it's on the screen. This is out, so I can talk about this.
Mhm.
Like next gen was my favorite client, not client, was studio work that I done. Uh, I did like half of the characters on this show was
Yeah.
me and Ashley Adams were the only two uh, character sculptors. So we're not maulers, just
Huh.
sculpting, and somebody else was doing topology. And
That's
I
cool.
felt yeah, I felt like a rock star. I was just doing the
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
part. Yeah, and yeah, was I don't know, was amazing. We had a lot of fun,
Yeah, it's awesome.
and the directors were super passionate about, like that's one thing. I think that's what was Kevin Adams and uh, Joey Cassander. Uh,
Hmm.
so that's one thing. Like they had two things that I really admired. Uh, One is like they were super passionate about the story and making always trying to make it better and involving everybody creatively on it.
Hmm.
And the other thing was like the they were like the dynamic duo. They were doing every like between two of like uh they were pushing each other to the next level.
That's
And I
awesome.
think every single project that they work on, from even before that to now, they always work as partners. Like they,
That's super cool.
yeah, they're always hired as a package. And like I was super envy of that in a good way. Like I wish that for myself. And you know having a art bro.
That's what we need to do.
Yeah, man. And yeah, that's why I'm super excited that like out of everybody that I worked with before, you were the one we talk every week, right? Like
Hmm.
we, and always about art and all that. So
Yeah, it's true.
yeah, it gets, yeah, you're the closest thing I ever had to what Kevin and Joe have. uh,
I'm happy to hear that.
yeah.
No, this is cool, man. This is
Yeah,
really awesome
so
work.
more studio work. This is more online, in line with what I usually get to do because it's like preschool and
Yeah.
yeah, some
Oh, this isn't
uh,
preschool. This is awesome.
yeah, but wasn't very awesome working on it. So uh,
Nobody
was
cares about that, also.
well. Let me just okay. Let me find a good stuff enough studio. Uh, okay, so this, have you seen this before?
Yes.
Yeah, so this
Super
is
cool.
the pilot of the My Space Parts saga thing, and I think this is version number 3 of him. The third time I made
That's
him.
all right. Free versions is decent.
uh, I was super happy with the result. There was nothing wrong with it, but it took so long to get to that stage that I kind of realized that in order for me to make all the characters by myself would take forever. Um,
I like how that character, he's for me. I like how he he doesn't look like your atypical hero, right? Like in many ways, like he's got the receding hairline, like a mustache. He looks a little bit worn down, almost like a like they did that with Mr. Incredible, where he feels like a bit of a old.
I didn't think of Mr. Incredible when I was doing, but the story has that in it. Like he's
Mhm.
past his prime. That's the uh, his background is basically he gave up a lot of things in life to achieve his career dreams,
Hmm.
and he achieved all of them, and his life feels empty now.
Yeah.
And he's seeing the value on the things that he gave up. So that's the his mental stage when he starts, and I'm glad that that comes true on the
No,
design
it
of it.
really does. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
the little tweaking of the mustache, is that a little nod to pirates on there? Like the
Yeah.
little quill. Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Like,
had like a lot of little nods to pirates, like on the on the design, where like a little bit of using more leather than most sci-fi
yeah,
stuff would
sure.
use, and like the position of the pouches and things, like
Hmm.
um, kind of resembling that. And they like they're gonna have swords and stuff like that. But I found some good technical reasons for coming up with this. This is kind of interesting. Like I had a phase where my space pirates thing wasn't going anywhere.
Hmm.
My other show that I tried to make before the comic book wasn't going anywhere, and then I first heard about Beeple during this time, and Beeple was doing like one artwork a day for I don't know, God know how many years.
Hmm.
Years. Beeple Crap, you know of him, right? Like he became very popular doing NFT. Uh,
Okay. I don't know.
I think the most expensive NFTs ever sold were his.
Well,
So yeah, but at the time he was just like I was just admiring him because he was actually putting out a complete piece of art every single day of his life. Even the day his son was born, he made
what's he
one.
called? What's he called?
Um, Beeple Crap.
Depot crap.
It's very political and a little bit of motion graphics in there too, but um, the the style is not what was attracting me to the idea. It was more like the result of having like 365 pieces of art in a year,
Hmm.
so I tried for like 30 days doing one piece a day, and
Yeah.
then later that year I tried again doing like faces of celebrities or whatever one a
Hmm.
day. So this one's like, do you know who this is? Does it look like somebody?
Uh, is it Bruce Lee?
Yeah, it was supposed to be Bruce Lee. This one is easier to spot, like Danny Trejo is.
Yeah.
Um, and again, like I kind of cringe a little bit looking at
Yeah.
those because yeah, some fan art when I was trying to do conventions and stuff.
Yeah.
Those characters are
Uh,
actually from my old comic book idea.
yeah. I like this one on the left. He's cool.
Yeah, some more fan art and
Nice.
other stuff. But it was like I was just trying to push like this is actually old like I made those on my first year in Canada, and I've been here 14 years, so it's like 13
Wow.
years ago. Yeah, and
The one on the left is 13 years old.
no, the one on the right's 13 years old. The one on the left is what's like 10 years old, I guess.
Still looks
Uh,
cool.
yeah, it's what I was saying before, where like at the time like was that roller coaster of emotions, like, oh, it's gonna be the best thing ever, this
Yeah.
design, and then
Yeah.
like, oh, it kind of sucks. I was like, it's okay at the end, and then years later I look back at it, it's like, man, this is actually awesome. I'm proud of it.
Well,
after, after
yeah.
a
I mean,
decade, I'm pretty proud of it.
we have to be like grateful for our past selves. In many ways, I feel like
True.
they're the ones who got us like here.
Yeah, this is like when I first got into 3D printing, so I started making like thinking more of action figures than a scene kind of
Yeah,
thing.
that's so cool.
And oh, I was looking for this I made those characters for a VR game,
Yeah,
and then I showed them those, like I brought to work, and they loved it, so they hired me back to make the 3D prints after I was done with my contract.
that's so cool.
And so they're taking this to conventions and everything, and funny enough, I'm doing freelance to the same place now, and it's the same place but not the same place because they got bought out by Hasbro, and when
Mhm.
the crisis hits, Hasbro shut them down, so they reopen. They are doing something a little bit different now, and but the funny part is like one of the guys have the those statues on his desk.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So this is back to Space Pirates, but I was like kind of trying to replicate this style in Quill, and I was
Hmm.
like, Quill is like the VR painting and
Yeah,
animating thing. So this is like my one of my attempts of making like a 3D painting instead of a 3D model.
yeah,
Uh, this is another one. This was actually done first. At the time, I thought it wasn't polished enough, but now I like the roughness more.
yeah, for sure.
Like the and this is like the pilot again
Yeah,
on a scene rendered in Blender and made in Quill.
super cool. Ah,
Yeah,
yes.
and but the
Kill us
the
so
work.
fuck. It's so VR and it's so cool.
I'm still contemplating, like I'm moving towards grease pencil now,
Yeah, we were
but
speaking about that. We're gonna try and do the same course, right?
yeah.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
very mixed results from me. We should do
Yeah,
that,
but
and then we should do that, and then show like our results on here. That would be good.
that would, yeah. So uh, and more paid work. Let me see if there's anything else here that worth showing.
I didn't know you worked on live actions.
When I first got in Canada, I was working for SPFX.
Hmm.
Oh, this is, might as well show it.
Oh yeah, you can show
Uh,
this now. This is
yeah,
Emmy award winning.
yeah, M award winning Rhino. That this one wasn't actually used on this. They, well, it was used, but somebody else
Took the
was one
glory.
of, yeah. Well, because I made the Rhino, I finished surfacing, and then they outsourced the entire episode to somebody else,
Hmm.
so to another studio. So the other studio kind of took some liberties and redid parts of the Rhino. So I can't take credit for that one. Uh,
You got half an Emmy.
Half an Emmy, yeah. Well, I made other stuff for the show, so
Yeah,
I
I'm
can I
kidding.
can claim my share of the Emmy. I will never see that Emmy, but I actually like those shots. But James helped me quite a lot. Like, was the first character I groomed in like the panda.
Yeah, that's super.
But that's pretty much it. And then like now I have uh, my short film to finish and my choose on which project to take on. I don't have any art to show uh, for the Muse project.
Mm.
I actually did art, but I don't uh,
Don't want to
like.
show it.
Yeah, a little bit of that. I have on the iPad. I was sculpting on the iPad a little
Oh yeah,
bit.
I see.
Yeah, and so yeah, I have it on the iPad, but it was more like a test of style than anything. Um, but I'm trying to, yeah, right now the way I want to take that's why, like, I think that one would be a good one for testing this style, because I want to do like the model with very little detail, like just separate forms, like very easy to rig, just like and do grease pencil on top of everything. So the eyes will have the eyeball volume, but
Hmm.
no eyelids. So they're painted and animated on top of the surface. The mouth is something that I still have to figure out, because like sideways mouth open, like right,
Yeah,
like then if the geo is not there. But yeah, I don't know, I thought of some boring technical solutions for that, which excites me.
that's really cool, man. No, that's awesome seeing your work and like, because like I said, we often see each other's work professionally, but we don't really sit down and talk through it like that. And it's really cool to see, man. Like I said, I'm kind of really in awe of your like just wide array of knowledge. And like you pair it with like an artistic ability that's it's like super cool to have. Like
Oh man, and again, like, and I envy your drive and the amount of effort you put on perfecting the craft and everything. So I think we both have things to learn from each other, which is gonna be great going forward, like especially
yeah,
with this, because then yeah, last week we did the lens little thing that I still have to put it out. uh, but I think like I like the idea of teaching you some things, and with you a lot of people can learn on the side, and
Hmm.
same the other way around, because I have a lot to learn from you, and um, I can be your subject, and other
Yeah,
people is gonna like learn with it, and I hope I have questions that answers the questions that other people have,
for sure.
right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
because I think next week we're gonna do like a little painting exercise, like taking a grayscale painting into color essentially, which is something I like to do, especially on a quick turnaround. You know, because it kind of really
Yep.
speeds things up. You're not worrying too much about the colors, and you can let Photoshop or your chosen painting
Yeah.
software be your friend, you know, and help you out. Because yes, that's what we're gonna do. And recently is this week actually, and I don't think I've spoken about this yet. I keep on coming up with this idea. I'm going to be starting a teaching job in part time in September, but I do often feel like I do a lot of gesture drawing, at in person, in my sketchbook, but also online. Sorry, on the computer. And I'm thinking, you know what? I see a lot of these courses around. And I'm like, I wonder if I should do a small course or a small YouTube video, on gesture drawing from start to not even to finish. Like it would hardly touch on anatomy, maybe a little bit, but it's more
Mhm.
about the life, that initial sketch and energy that you need to then build upon to when you start adding the anatomy, the structure. But that initial sketch sometimes is lost, I feel, and I try my hardest to get that in at the very start. I feel like without it, your drawing will be static and boring.
Mhm.
So I think that's something I'm also going to put onto my plate of to-do list. Perhaps start thinking about this
Yeah.
course, like it could be
So
a couple lessons long.
I think that can be two things. Like that could be an entire program, right? Like that
For sure.
could take like could be a 20 hours
Yeah.
like program thing, like workshop, whatever. But I think it can be like if you going back to while we're like the very beginning, what's the minimal viable product related to that?
True.
And I think like
Maybe like a
uh,
20-minute video to see if I even like it, if anyone's interested, and
I
then
think you should teach me on one of those
yeah,
things, and then the just like more than teaching is showing the value of it on the way you do it and why it
true.
benefits you, and then you might do like if you do the actual 20-hour version or whatever, then you put behind a paywall and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. No, you're right. It
Like
would be good
yeah.
to do that with you, kind of get out, like see what's working, what's not working. Um, yeah, and whether I've got something new to say, as well, like because there are
Yeah.
lots of courses out there that teach life drawing by good artists. So this has to be one, where I feel like I'm putting out something new that I feel is exciting and worth people's time and money, because that's essentially what it
Yeah.
would be in the end. So, like, what does Lee Robinson have to say about drawing and about gesture
Hmm.
drawing and about bringing life into your work? Because there's been plenty of times when there's 10 seconds 10 seconds left in a session, and I'm like, shit, I haven't put enough energy into this drawing, and like for that last 10 seconds, I'm trying to like do it, and once that model's did like change that pose, you're never gonna get the same pose ever again. So all that's gonna be left is your drawing on that paper. So if you haven't put that energy and that life into that drawing, then it's gone. It's like it faded into existence. So it's the only remnant left of that moment. And I think that's going to be where I'm going to start building. That's going to be my starting block, like to build everything else around.
I got a little bit of goosebumps with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, because and
that's good.
I
That's
think
good then.
and that also like gives you the where to put the value on, where to put the energy on the right time, because
Hmm.
um, if you like we do have some anatomy knowledge, and we do know kind of like I think it's easier to remember some like what part is shaded and in which way, or than the actual energy of the pose and everything, right? So
Yeah,
uh, you can make mental notes of the things that can be lost and replicated later,
Mm-hmm.
and focus the energy at the more important beats and trying to replicate the feeling and the energy of the. I like that quite a lot.
Yeah,
uh,
it's. I mean,
I gotta get back
it's
to
like a
life drawing.
it's a building block, right? It's that, and you pair it with structure later on, but that gesture, that initial like life is yeah,
Yeah.
you got to work for it. You've got to, and you got to
because
learn
you
like why it works.
because if it's a 2 minute pose and you're rendering muscles, you're not gonna get it right, right?
No,
Like,
no, for sure. But
yeah,
it also depends what you go, what your plan is. If you want to go and you're working on muscles and you want to go life drawing, but even within those muscles, there's gestures and life to be found. It's I think that's why a lot of people don't like long poses initially when they start learning, because
yeah,
there's only
that's me.
so much. Yeah, because and me too, it definitely was me, and sometimes still. But because when your knowledge, like when you hit that ceiling, you're like, well, there's nothing really left for me to do because I don't know what else to draw, you know
Oh, for me, that's now affects me with the longer poses. For me, it's more like I neglect the gesture because
Mhm.
the overall
So you kind of
because
lose it,
yeah,
lose like the
because
yeah the energy. Yeah.
I think it's more it's not that I don't like the long poses, it's like I like what the short poses bring on me,
Hmm.
because my natural, like I always feel like I have enough time, so I start like I don't know, blocking and then doing things, and like when it's just like when it's 1 minute or 2 minutes, you gotta like really go, and
Yeah.
then the happy accidents pop up, and
Yeah,
um,
it's
it's
true.
and not sometimes things that you would do naturally, but if you have time to think about it, you prevent yourself from trying, and then in a 2 minute pause, you try without thinking. I think that's it keeps you from thinking too much and actually just like put it on paper,
Yeah, but like I
and
said, there are like you can find
yeah.
life through any like
Mhm.
and
But I started by hating the short poses. When I first started doing life drawing, I hated the 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. Like
Mhm.
I really enjoyed the 10 minutes. And then one day, my mind changed when I was showing somebody my sketchbook, and I realized that my best drawings were the 1 minute ones. So I'm
Yeah.
uh, like, well, turns out I don't know what I like.
Yeah, it's
uh,
sometimes I don't know what I like either, and um, but there's always like for me, it's always the battle between the emotional side of drawing, which I don't often get, when I actually work on the computer, to be honest. But like that emotional connection that I said you get with life drawing, and then making sure it doesn't go like too abstract. I'm trying to like find this balance of like the technical
yeah.
knowledge with paired with this like emotional energy. I sound like I'm in a crazy cult, but this emotional energy, and like you can like create like something amazing and beautiful that no one else will ever do. Yeah, I'm really passionate about life drawing. If you can, this is why I need to talk about it.
Yeah. No, this motorcycle I was showing. This is the result of one of the classes that I was recording
Yeah,
for.
it's super cool.
Yeah, so this it's a game model, and somebody else is gonna teach the painting parts and bring it to Unreal and all that.
Um,
So, and again, like this model was good for me because I have some unnecessary knowledge about motorcycles
yeah, I was
because
gonna
I like
say
riding
it's
them,
yeah,
and then I can and every time I see motorcycle art around motorcycles, my my eyes go to places where I see mistakes all the time and I keep judging. So it was a good challenge for me to design my own motorcycle uh, and model it and trying not to make the mistakes that I judge people for making. And in
for
this,
sure.
like one of the big ones is not having the controls, like the brake on the right place, right? Like the foot controls, especially, um, or the suspension doesn't like not connecting with the handlebars and whatever. Like, how does that thing turn? And
Damn,
yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of happy with the result. I might 3D print this thing at some point.
you may as well. Damn, that's really cool, man. God.
Um,
I've also got something I want to like recommend. I know we said we wanted to kind of like something that we've watched or used like every week. Something, it could be a movie, it could be a show, like a web, like an application, like something that we feel has been beneficial this week.
yeah,
I know mine, it's while you're searching for that, is Shot Deck. Did you use Shot Deck?
no, it sounds
Oh,
like a storyboarding thing. Is it?
well, not particularly. Let me show you. It's a website that is essentially like a reference website for pretty much like every shot you could ever think of, in any movie. Like if you want to look for like a certain, for example, let's check in here, purple. Let's just put the color purple because I was looking at it here. So it'll bring up, shot like different movies that have been using, the color purple in their shots. And like I say, it has all the kind of different information about the camera that was used, the lens type, and then it has similar shots as well. So you can open up this and you kind of go down a rabbit hole of
That's pretty awesome. Okay,
honestly, it can look up anything you want, and
okay.
it's
I'm curious about one shot.
okay.
Go to Shogun. Let's.
Okay.
Do they have Shogun there?
Oh yeah, they'll have Shogun. So you can look for every single shot of like not every shot, but like pretty much every
Yeah.
scene in Shot.
Okay, that one. Go up a little. That one. Your mouse was just over it. No, it's indoor in the temple.
Oh, this one.
No, one
Oh,
to the
this
right. Yeah. Want to see the lens? Where is the?
So the lens is a Hawk Class X Anamorphics, Hawk Vantage 1, or Hawk V Lite.
Okay, I gotta Google that because I was hoping for like a millimeter value there.
Yeah, it doesn't say in this one. But you can also click on that camera and it takes you to shots that have been shot by that camera.
Okay, so being anamorphic already explains a little bit more to me, because the uh, anamorphics are wider in a different way than a fisheye or wide angle. Um, do you know what anamorphic means?
I'm not off the top of my head, or the
So
bottom of my head.
it basically it stretches the image in a way to fit more
Yeah.
information horizontally.
Okay.
But then when you
that makes
so
sense.
but it's actually compressing, so everybody looks compressed on the shot, and then there is the de-squeeze, so you're basically diminishing the resolution on the x-axis because you're compressing more information into the frame.
Right. Yeah, you
And
know what?
then
I do remember watching a video about this. I think I showed you the video a while ago, but I totally forgot, and you've just reminded me. Yeah.
but then you de-squeeze by actually squeezing in this way,
Yeah.
and then you get the proportions right, but then uh, and you get the wider angle, and a lot of the black bars on movies come from using the anamorphic lens.
Yes. That's
Uh,
super cool. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I've been kind of good. I've been using this. I've been doing some for storyboards and color scripts this week for like for a project at work. And Shot Deck is like it's a lifesaver. It's sometimes you sit there with your blank canvas and you're trying to just even get a couple of compositions, like that first kind of color idea going, and you look at what masters have done, or it doesn't have to be a master, but people who've got a lot of experience in the industry, and we all lend and borrow from each other. So Shot Deck, I think you can get a free trial for like 7 days, and then it's maybe like $12 a month. But for me already, it's paid for itself, right? So,
Oh yeah, it's like it's a resource that if you use here and there, it might look expensive, but if you're using every day, it sounds so
yeah,
cheap.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind like subscriptions for stuff that I feel like
Yeah.
I've helped and benefit learning. It's so yeah, Shot Deck is my recommendation for the week.
Nice. Yeah, mine is not really a recommendation. It's just an idea, and it came from this a video that I was watching from this guy, dries kettles. I keep hearing that phrase over and over. where luck is where preparation meets opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
If the opportunities are waves and the artist is the surfer, uh, surfing would the surfboard would be your portfolio, your skill set. And if you don't know how, if you don't practice, if you never surfed before, and you show up and a big wave comes by and you're sitting in the middle of the ocean with your surfboard, it's just gonna, the bigger the opportunity, the bigger the wave, it's gonna cause more damage to you than actually get you to enjoy it, because you're not prepared for it, you don't have the skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, if you have all the skills but you're sitting on a lake, you're not going to catch many waves. Like, you
Yeah.
have to go where the waves are.
Yeah.
And today that's a little bit easier because a lot of the waves are online.
Mm-hmm.
But if you but you gotta expose yourself in a way, and I don't know what the best way to do it is, because I have my own dilemmas with social media and all that. So uh, I don't think social media is the answer, but I also know that not posting anywhere is not the answer too,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Uh, and maybe traveling a little bit and going to events and going, like, it might be a way of seeing some bigger waves than
Mm-hmm.
the little place that they're sitting on. So I don't know. I thought that was deep.
I really like that one. Honestly, I do. It stuck with me actually, and I think, but a lot of our skill sets are kind of, and evidence of our skill sets are hidden behind work or NDAs or clients, and we're not like, and which is why I think these personal projects are going to be
Yeah.
so important going forward. It's a real chance to flex every skill set you have. In your case, you got like, you're gonna have a lot of flexing to do, and you
But
know.
man, but even to that, if your portfolio is your surfboard,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have any personal projects, and everything you're doing is behind NDAs,
You just got a little
you
plank of
don't
wood instead.
you're showing up without your surfboard. You're sitting
Yeah,
in the middle of the ocean in front of a big wave without a surfboard, and it's gonna just wash you out. Same as
yeah,
if you, so the skills don't matter if you don't have the resources.
yeah, for sure.